In the summer of 1984, the small town of Maple Hollow, New York, was the kind of place people left their doors unlocked. Families gathered on porches. Neighbors waved from across the street. It was the picture of trust. But on one quiet July evening, that trust was shattered. What began as a harmless babysitting job ended with flashing lights, shattered innocence, and a chilling question that still echoes through the town decades later: how well do we really know the people we trust with what we love most? The Palmers were a young couple chasing the American dream. Tom Palmer worked long hours as an insurance agent. His wife, Diane, stayed home with their two children, a 4-year-old boy and a toddler daughter. They lived on Elmwood Drive, a neighborhood of oak-lined streets, brick mailboxes, and the hum of sprinklers on summer nights. When Diane decided to take a part-time job at the local library, they needed help. Someone trustworthy, someone who could keep an eye on the kids until Tom got home. That's when Linda Ray, a 24-year-old college dropout who lived 2 streets over, appeared at their door. Linda was polite, soft-spoken, with honey-colored hair and the kind of smile that disarms suspicion. She'd grown up in Maple Hollow. Her mother was known from church, her father had been a mechanic before he passed. Everyone knew the Rays. To Diane she was a godsend. To the children she was fun, the kind of sitter who baked cookies and let them stay up an extra 15 minutes. But behind that gentle smile, something darker was brewing. Over the next few months, Linda became more than a babysitter. She became a fixture, part of the family's routine. She joined them for dinner sometimes, brought gifts for the kids, even helped Diane decorate for Christmas. But friends would later recall subtle changes in her behavior. She talked about the Palmers constantly, about their house, their car, their happiness. It was admiration at first, then envy. She once told a coworker at the diner, "They have everything I was supposed to have." You see, Linda had recently gone through a painful breakup. The man she dated for 3 years had married someone else. Someone who, in Linda's mind, looked a lot like Diane. That was when admiration turned into fixation. She began wearing her hair like Diane's. She bought similar clothes. She even started using the same brand of perfume. To outsiders, it might have looked like imitation. But to investigators later, it would look like something much more disturbing: identity replacement. On July 28, 1984, Diane and Tom planned a rare night out, their anniversary dinner at a lakeside restaurant about 30 minutes away. They called Linda that afternoon. She agreed immediately. Nothing seemed off. She arrived early, cheerful as always, waving goodbye as the couple backed out of the driveway. The neighborhood went quiet as the sun sank behind the trees. What happened in the hours that followed remains partially lost to time, pieced together through police interviews, neighbors' accounts, and what investigators would later find inside that little 2-story home on Elmwood Drive. By 10:15 p.m., a neighbor across the street noticed the Palmers' front door ajar and the house lights still on. She thought nothing of it, until she heard the sound of a child crying. When Tom and Diane returned around 10:40, police reports note that Diane's screams could be heard from 3 houses down. The scene inside was chaotic, emotional, and left detectives with more questions than answers. The children were physically unharmed but terrified, hiding in their bedroom closet. Linda Ray was gone. Detective Arthur McKenna of the Maple Hollow Police Department arrived just after midnight. He described the house as eerily calm, as if time had stopped. The phone in the kitchen was off the hook. On the counter sat a half-finished cup of coffee, still warm. And near the sink, something caught McKenna's attention. A small gold earring shaped like a heart, engraved with the initials LR. Within hours, an APB was issued. Linda Ray's 1978 Ford Pinto was gone, as was a suitcase from her home. At first, investigators feared she might harm herself, but as they dug deeper into her background, a pattern began to emerge. She'd been dismissed from 2 previous nanny jobs in nearby towns, each under unusual circumstances. In one, she'd been accused of entering the family's bedroom uninvited. In another, a child's diary mentioned Miss Linda crying in the kitchen at night. The deeper they looked, the clearer it became. Linda Ray hadn't just snapped, she had been unraveling for months. For nearly 3 days, Maple Hollow was on edge. Police checkpoints were set up across county lines. Local newspapers ran headlines like, "Beloved Babysitter Vanishes After Bizarre Incident." Tips poured in, sightings of a young woman matching Linda's description at bus stations, diners, even a Greyhound heading toward Buffalo. But the breakthrough came from something small. A gas station attendant outside Syracuse recalled a woman in a Ford Pinto paying with a $20 bill that looked water-stained and torn, just like a batch of bills stolen from the Palmer household safe. The attendant remembered her clearly because she'd asked for directions to a motel near the state border. Detectives traced her there within hours. When they entered the motel parking lot, the Pinto sat quietly in the corner, coated in dust. Inside, they found Linda Ray, exhausted, disoriented, sitting cross-legged on the bed with an open Bible beside her. She didn't resist arrest. In fact, she seemed relieved. According to Detective McKenna's notes, her first words were, "I was just trying to make things right again." The trial of Linda Ray in the winter of 1985 captivated New York State. The prosecution painted a portrait of obsession turned dangerous. A young woman whose jealousy of the Palmer's life drove her to cross every boundary of trust. Psychiatrists testified that Linda suffered from delusional attachment disorder, an inability to separate admiration from possession. She had blurred the line between wanting to belong and wanting to replace. Her defense argued mental instability, pleading for leniency. But the jury saw something else: intention. After 6 hours of deliberation, Linda Ray was found guilty of multiple counts including unlawful entry, child endangerment, and aggravated assault. She was sentenced to 25 years to life in Bedford Hills Correctional Facility. In the courtroom, Diane Palmer sat stone-faced as the verdict was read. When asked by reporters later if she forgave Linda, she simply said, "Forgiveness is between her and God. I just hope no one else ever trusts her with their home." Maple Hollow never fully recovered. The Palmer family moved away within a year. The house on Elmwood Drive sat empty for months, its cheerful shutters fading under the summer sun. Neighbors stopped hiring local sitters. People installed locks, bought alarm systems, and whispered warnings about the Babysitter case. Years later, Detective McKenna, now retired, said in an interview, "That case taught us that evil doesn't always look like evil. Sometimes it looks like the person you say goodnight to." Trust is the foundation of every community. We hand it to teachers, neighbors, and yes, babysitters. But when trust is misplaced, the damage ripples far beyond the crime itself. The story of Linda Ray isn't just about betrayal. It's about what happens when admiration turns to envy, when longing turns to obsession, and when love turns cold. In 1980s America, the suburbs promised safety. But even behind white picket fences, shadows can form, and sometimes they're standing right inside your living room. This is True Crime Vault, where every story is a reminder that the truth is rarely as innocent as it seems.